Hello and welcome to Rule of Three's video review for Dying Light, a first-person action-adventure game from Techland and Warner Brothers, the people that brought you Dead Island. So, Dying Light is a new IP, like I said, it's from the people that did Dead Island, and it is kind of a mixture between Mirror's Edge, Far Cry, and yeah, kind of a mix between those. I can't think of really the third, and I guess a little bit of Dead Island, obviously, because of zombies. It's a very ambitious game. It tries to do a lot. In the end, the game does a good job of, I think pushing Techland a little further down the right road of how to make a zombie game, but falls short in a few areas.
There's no cure right now, but you see, I've been running tests on both antigen and infected tissue. A cure is possible, definitely possible.
The story of Dying Light, you play the role of Kyle Crane, an undercover operative who basically flies into the city of Iran, which is where the zombie infection is taking place, which is a place in Turkey at this point, to find a man named Kadir Saluman, who's a rogue agent who could basically cause all kinds of havoc. Problem is, as soon as he lands there, he gets beat up by the local gang, and then saved by a couple of people just trying, good civilian kind of people. Save you, one of them dies, and you end up at this place called the Tower with the rest of the survivors that aren't, the drug lords and bad people that are also living in the city. Kyle then has to kind of choose between doing his mission or helping these people survive, and kind of all the mix match in there with all the different people in the tower. On the whole, the story's okay. It's definitely a step up from, a Dead Island story. It's a little bit more complicated. Kyle's a good protagonist just because he does have kind of this moral conflict that he ends up going in between them. Side character-wise, they're all a little... they're not as good as you would hope, but once again, I think overall the story is definitely decent, and keeps you wanting to find out, more about what's going to happen. But about around maybe the beginning of Act 2, downfall of Act 2, it gets a little slower, and he kind of loses a bit of its luster.
Yusuf was right.
And you're fucking dead. We've got a visitor.
If Mama ain't happy, nobody happy. So you better make Mama happy.
Ghazi?
Me too. We have the same name. Are you from the video store?
Gameplay is where this game has its really has its highs and lows. High-wise, the day and night cycle is amazing in this game. During the days when you kind of go around and try to do as much stuff as you can possibly do, whether it's finding drops, killing zombies, just running around gaining experience points, stuff like that. Zombies are pretty dumb, except for the newly infected who can run after you, but most of them are just your slow, dumb zombies, and you can take them out fairly easily with melee weapons. However, once the game hits a night cycle, which is about, I think, 7-8 minutes. I think it's 7-8 minutes out of every hour, something like that. The zombies become crazy. They are all able to now run, scale buildings, do more damage, and just will beat the ever-living crap out of you unless you get to a safe area. Safe house areas are scattered around the environment, where you can get to it and the zombies won't go there and you can rest. Depending on the zombie type, there's a couple. Other than just the newly infected, there's also like this weird, crazy green thing, and the thing with little mouths. They get crazy the further you get in, but they become a lot more deadly at night. And early game, you want to avoid the night at all costs. It's a really cool system, and it just kind of gives you kind of that during the day, do as much as you can. You're not quite invincible. You'll die a lot in this game. I'll explain that in a little bit. But at night, you need to be careful. You can no longer just run and do your things, because they will hear you and find you and kill you very quickly. Another high is the actual movement in the game. The free flow traversal and stuff works really well. It's really smooth. The problem I have with it is just the controls for jump and slide are kind of weird, where they position those on the controller. That's a little bit of a beef against the control scheme on this game. But otherwise, just getting around the city is very, very easy, very flexible, and is a lot of fun. Like I said, if you enjoyed Mirror's Edge, it has a lot of kind of that Mirror's Edge movements
You can tell Brecken that Counterfeit Lab's out of business,
game, which is good. Back to the control scheme, that's probably one of my biggest complaints about this game is the way they did the controller. is just buttons aren't where you want them to be. I'd want to do like a melee attack, but it'd end up being dodge, or I'd want to run, I'd end up, doing a kick, or I would want to jump and, throw a secondary item or slide or something weird. It's just, it doesn't feel like anything is where it's supposed to be, other than the run button. You push down on one of the analog sticks to run. That's really the only button I feel is in the right place. Everything else, it just feels kind of weird. Other than that, let's see. The leveling up system is okay. There's three trees that you can level up in. There's a survival tree, which you unlock or get XP for that for doing quests and helping out survivors. That's usually kind of overall just kind of general survival things like increased health, pick up more items, find things, easier job unlocking things, stuff like that. The runner tree or agility tree is your free run ability, so that gives you increased jump, increased slide, dodge mechanics, stuff to basically get away from the enemy, and you get XP from climbing and running on things. It's probably the easiest thing to get EXP and grind. Get to grinding in a minute, but it's the easiest one to level, other than the third one, which is your strength 3 in melee. Obviously, this one you get for beating down zombies and enemies, and every time you do something, this one gives you more defense, higher attack power, stun, stuff like that. And that's overall, the system works very well, but it is very, very, very grindy, which is one of my biggest complaints of this game, is that it is super grindy. Odds are, like I said, you don't want to do the night cycle at the beginning because you'll get rates because you won't have the skills to do it. And the problem with getting skills is you get XP at such a slow rate at the beginning that it's very disheartening to some extent. And it's kind of sad. I mean, later on, once you get further in the game, you do get experience a lot quicker. But the game's learning curve is ridiculous, which is my other second big complaint about this game is everything works, like, flow-wise it works very well, but there's just such a big, steep learning and experience curve that you have to kind of undertake that starting this game can kind of feel like a chore. And then once you get to the peak, the game becomes a lot easier, and it has a difficulty balance that it isn't able to get right. Also, there's some side quests that you can do. Those are also, I mean, it's great that they have side quests. My biggest problem with side quests are they're basically fetch quests. There's not a whole lot of kind of fun quests outside of the main scenario. It's pretty much go to place X, talk to person B, go get item C, bring back the person B, reborn. There's not a whole lot of difference. You may have to kill something somewhere, to get said item, but on the whole, they're pretty much the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's really, I think, kind of a disappointment. Is the main stories, at least somewhat decent, has some good mechanics, but the side quests are really, really boring. There's also multiplayer in this game. I did do a round of multiplayer. It works fine. You basically just team up with people and go crazy on things. You can also do competitive where somebody's trying to kill you. Other than that, the game's pretty. Definitely looks very, very pretty. And is, overall, just the game works. But there's a lot of minor kind of issues that I had with the game that prevented me from really, really getting into this game.
Isn't a normal drop shoot?
Break his legs, then take him to rides.
Back up! All of you!
Stop! Loud noises draw them.
Dying Light is the first AAA game to come out this year for the most part, at least new AAA new IP game. And it does a lot of things right, and it's definitely an improvement from Techland's Dead Island series, which to me is mediocre to bad, depending on which one you play. Riptide was terrible. But there's just a lot of different minor things in this game that really hurt it in the long run, in my opinion. And they're all small things that, aren't that bad. But once you add them all up, it does kind of kill it a little bit. I'm giving this game a very solid rent verdict. And that is it for Dying Light. I'm not reviewing a game this week because I didn't want to do SpongeBob SquarePants, to be honest, and I can't do Vita games as well. So instead, I will be doing an extra Roy's Retro review looking at Grim Fandango, and I'll be using the remastered version to do that because I can. So look forward to that on Friday. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Like us on there. Obviously, subscribe to this channel if you're watching it on YouTube, or go to YouTube, and if you're watching this on the website, go to the website, rule3.com, for all of the news and editorials, and hopefully one day Let's Plays, depending on Lizzie's schedule, and our podcast. And that's it for this review. So until next time, always remember to trust in the rule of 3.